Okay, here we are at chapter 7. They're coming! The lookout's cry echoed down from the highest tower on Castle Seacliff. Baron Egil squinted up. His eyes narrowed against the gale, then followed the direction the man's arms was pointing. A group of Scandinavian warriors was emerging from the trees into the cleared ground around the castle. A mounted figure rode beside the man who led them. There was also, he made out, a black and white dog trotting ahead of the group. He talked to them. He talked to them, you say? Urkel asked, and Norris nodded, standing at the battlemaster beside his leader. When he had left Will on the path, he had gone no further than the next bend. He had watched the ranger meet the Scandinavians, ready to go to his aid if necessary. That's right, he simply barred the way and talked to them. I saw him fire one arrow as a warning. Actually, I didn't see it, he added, correcting himself. It just sort of happened. They're uncanny, those rangers. Okay, this pen is very thick. I'm going to get a different one. Here we are, new pen. And he said something about a banquet. This time Nash shrugged. He had already passed that instruction to Rollo, mystified as he was by it. A banquet, my lord, although what he has in mind I can't tell you. As they had been talking, Ergel had been counting the Scandinavian force approaching the castle. Nearly 30 of them he saw, more than they could afford to engage. They'd have to face up to the fact that the village would be plundered and burned to the ground. The villagers themselves would be safe enough inside the castle walls, and the livestock had been scattered as Will had ordered, but his people, his dependents, would lose their homes and their belongings, and the Baron knew it was his fault. The Scandinavians had stopped now, some 200 meters from the castle. He saw the ranger lean down from his saddle to talk to their leader, a massive man wearing a horn helmet and carrying a double-bladed battle axe. Some form of agreement seemed to pass between them, and Will turned his horse towards the castle, letting him break into a fast canter. The dog accelerated from a standing start as only a sheepdog could, to keep station ahead of him. Perhaps we should go down and see what's in his mind, the Baron said, and he and his battlemaster headed for the stairs leading to the courtyard below. They had reached ground level by the time the gatekeeper were letting Will through the small wicket set into the main gate. He nodded to the Baron and to Sir Norris as they approached. We have an agreement with the Scandinavians, my lord, he said. Ergo realized that he had spoken in a carrying voice, and used the word we, so that those within earshot would assume that he had been acting on the Baron's instructions. It was a tactful thing to do, Ergel realized. It would have been easy for the ranger to have undermined his authority in front of his own people, yet he had chosen not to do so. I see, he replied gruffly. It wouldn't do to let people know that he didn't have the slightest idea what Will was talking about. The young ranger stepped closer and lowered his voice so that only Ergel and Norris could hear him. They need provisions for the winter, he said quietly. That's why they're here. I told them we'll let them have 5 bullocks and 10 sheep, plus a reasonable amount of grain for flour. 5 bullocks, Ergel began indignantly, but Will's cold glance stopped him in mid-protest. They'll take them all anyway, he said, and destroy the village into the bargain. It's a small enough price to pay, my lord. His steady gaze held the Baron's. Unspoken was the thought that Ergel was in this position because of his own neglect, his and Norris's. In that sense, it was a small price to pay. He saw Norris nodding agreement with Will. The bullocks can come from my herd, my lord, he said. Ergo knew his battlemaster was declaring his share of responsibility for the situation. He sighed. Of course, he said, and the sheep from mine. Give the orders, Norris. Inwardly, Will heaved a small sigh of relief. He had hoped that the two men would see that this was the best solution to their problem. Of course, Will could have made good on his threat to Gunda, but he had no wish to shoot down helpless men. Besides, even 10 Scandinavians could cause a lot of damage and injury, he knew, and frankly, since Ergel and Norris were to blame for the situation, they deserved to pay for it. In the meantime, my lord, I've arranged for Gunda and his men to feast with us. I take it Sir Norris mentioned the idea to your kitchen master. Ergel was taken aback by that. Feast with us, he said. Scandinavians, you want me to let them in here? He glanced quickly at the thick walls and the stout wooden gate. Will nodded. Gunter has given me a helmsman's word that there'll be no trouble, my lord. Ascanian would never break that vow. But still Ergol hesitated. The idea of letting those wild pirates inside his stronghold was too outlandish. Norris returned at that moment, having dispatched one of the herders to round up the scattered animals. Ergol turned to him helplessly. Apparently, we're to let these pirates inside the walls and provide them with a feast, he said. For a moment he could see Norris reacting as he had done. Then the knight remembered the sight of the lone, small figure waiting in the road to meet the Scanadians, and his shoulders drooped. Why not? He said in a resigned tone. I've never met a Scanadian socially before. It should prove interesting. Will grinned at the two of them. It should prove noisy, he said, then added a warning. But don't try to match them drink for drink. You'll never manage it. Wow, look at that. We managed to get to chapter 8. So, I'd like to thank you very much for listening to read up to chapter 7. And if you'd like to listen to me read chapter 8, please stay posted and hopefully I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.